This week on episode 290 of the Cinema Psycho Show, we're talking about the soulless creatures in your kid's toy box, dolls. More specifically, our favorite doll-themed horror movies.
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Ryan, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Condon, and my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Hey, that's not where I left my buddy. I mean, I know why he's not wearing pants, but
He's my buddy. I don't remember if that's the theme.
Because Kid Sister's got to get it.
Kid sister. Yeah. So this week we are, of course, coming again from the Erie Horror Fest, and kind of as we're doing a bunch of these episodes kind of back to back, which that's what we tend to do when we're at a convention like this. You know, John, you had proposed that we do an episode on doll horror.
Yeah, it's kind of our yearly horror tradition where we pick a certain type of genre. We've done like vampires, we've done Dracula specifically, haunted houses, things like that. So I was like, well, evil dolls is a genre in and of itself.
It is.
So let's kind of dive into that. And I would say I think that evil dolls are right up there with clowns in terms of freaking people out. Like, do you think that's fair? There's
and it's one of those things that I think it's like an irrational fear. You know what I mean? Like it's an irrational fear. Like no one can. If you ask someone who's afraid of clowns, like what is it about clowns that is scary? Oftentimes, what they'll say is, I don't know. It's just
they're unnatural.
They're unnatural, like you know, that sort of thing. And I really think that sort of thing translates to dolls. Is they are unnatural versions of us.
But they're also like they're supposed to be safety nets. They're supposed to be playthings like teddy bears, action figures. You know what you would consider a doll, like a little girl's doll. And the idea of that in any way being exploited, I think that really frightens people. And I think a lot of
Plus
older
they're fucking creepy.
Yeah, they can be. Yeah, quite a bit. My sister had they were decorative because that's how my mom kind of rolled. They were porcelain dolls. You know, and I mean, you don't really play with porcelain dolls anyway.
No, they're
made
just for decoration.
You know, fucking porcelain. And like, I would just look at them and I'd be like, "Stop looking at me." I'm like, "Oh wait, they're not looking at me. They're not real. I'm looking at them." You know,
my daughter has some dolls that I think are fucking creepy. Like, there's some ones like she has a ton of dolls that she's just into, and there have been times that we've gotten some, especially the ones that like the eyes move, like the eyes go up and down, like they just look creepy. So I gotta ask the toy makers, why do you make these dolls already naturally terrifying?
Well, isn't that kind of uncanny valley? And for people that don't know what that means, it's like
probably a little
if they if there's like a robot that's supposed to be human-like, or CGI in a movie that's supposed to mimic humans, but it just isn't there. It leaves that unsettling feeling because it's like you think you're almost looking at a real person, but you're not, and it kind of gives you the shivers.
And that might be why that dolls lend themselves really well to horror movies, right? Because when we're watching a horror movie, one of the things that we're trying to do is to invoke terror, fear, anxiety in your audience. And if just by the very nature of dolls kind of giving people the heebie-jeebies, might as well turn that into a movie, right?
Yeah. Well, when I think of like also the parents' perspective on it, because dolls are predominantly, unless you're like a collector or a man-child, you know, they're for little kids. You know, so the idea is like if a doll comes to life, it's it's evil, it's gonna come after the kids.
It's gonna come after the kids.
I remember my dad, like he was like, when I was a little kid, he hated the Child's Play franchise because he assumed that Chucky was just going around murdering children. You know, he had no idea what it was about. He
doesn't murder children. He just wants to steal the soul of
one kid, and he kills all the adults.
And he kills all the adults.
Who pretty much suck anyway.
Yeah, they all kind of suck. But one question I had for you. When you were a kid, because you had a sister.
Yeah.
Did any of those dolls that your sister had freak you out?
Just the porcelain ones I mentioned.
The porcelain one?
Because my sister, like, my parents didn't delineate, like, you have to play with boys' toys or girls' toys. So my sister played G.I. Joe with me. I played Barbie with her. Like, so it was mostly just kind of action figures that she had. Action figures, dolls, however you want to whatever nomenclature you want to use. So like, no, it never really bothered me. Just like, just basically what I would actually call my mom's dolls that she put in my sister's room so she could justify them. Like,
I had one doll that freaked me out.
And I know this.
You know
which
one. You know the story.
Yeah.
So
say the magic word, Brian.
Shut the fuck up. So I had I was obsessed with Pee Wee Herman as a kid, as most people my age were. And I had the Pee Wee Herman doll.
Yeah.
And like looking back now, it was not terrifying, but like for 6-year-old Brian, something happened.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was what you would say, which is, oh, you watch the news in 1991. I don't think that was it.
Yeah.
But something happened where I basically like was terrified of that fucking doll. And my dad had to take it and throw it into the garage. And he didn't throw it out. He just threw it in the garage. Just like, let's throw it in the garage. If it's out of sight, out of mind type deal. But sure enough, that doll followed us. Because every time we moved, like it would go to the garage. Oh, here's the Pee Wee Herman doll. Don't throw that out. So it kept
they paid for it, so they're not going to throw it out. They're just going to put it somewhere.
But that fucking doll just looks creepy as all hell. On top of that, when that doll aged, and you pull the like string, its voice box just sounds like the devil.
Yeah, because it like slows down because it's deteriorating.
It was worse. It was not slowed down. It was sped up.
Oh,
so it's even worse. It's almost like the Judge Doom from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Yeah. But it was that high pitched wailing that just came out of this doll. So like it's just that's a nightmare fuel thing.
So my dad got a joke Christmas gift from my uncle. It was what they called Pigskin Pete.
I remember Pigskin Pete.
Yeah, it looks like a giant baby doll in a football uniform.
I think we did an episode where you brought up Pigskin Pete.
Yeah, because like and you'd hit his little thing and he would do a little dance. He'd be like, "I got my game ball," and he'd say or something like that. And he was in the basement and was the Steelers were in Super Bowl 43. I'm like, I was going to a party to watch. I'm like, I should bring Pigskin Pete.
Yeah.
And I went to click the button. He's like, oh dear God! I'm like, he's possessed by the devil. And the thing is, like, I'm like, oh, the sound chip was going. That was what was happening.
Yeah.
I went down like a year later and I hit it, and he was perfectly fine again.
So it was, for that moment, possessed by the devil.
Yeah, goddamn Pazuzu. Eileen?
No.
What are you doing over there? But let's just mention some honorable TV mentions because we don't really do TV here. But I feel like one of the things that really launched this into like, oh, dolls are creepy is the Living Doll Twilight Zone episode with Chucky Tina.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always forgot about that one.
That one's a classic, and God, I watch that. I try to watch that this time of year every year. If you're listening to this in March or something, we're doing these during spooky season. And I remember there was like an advert for the Twilight Zone because it was like one of those. It was like last day of school.
Yeah.
So my German teacher was like, "I like the Twilight Zone, so you kids are gonna watch Twilight Zone because it's last day of school." And there's a little advert for it before it started, and it was just like montage of clips, and one was, "I'm Chucky Tina, and I'm gonna kill you," and everyone just laughed their ass off. And you got to mention Slappy. I feel
fucking Slappy. You got to talk about Slappy.
Goosebumps. Yeah, I think it's like in terms of popularity, it was probably Monster Blood, but in terms of actually freaking kids out, it was Slappy.
I mean, I think Slappy basically became like the mascot for Goosebumps.
Mm-hmm.
At least in recent years, it has become that. Like anytime, like when they did the movies, like the 2 movies with Goosebumps, Slappy was on the cover. But yeah, that the couple of episodes. I think there's 3. I think there's 3 Goosebumps episodes that feature Slappy, and they're fucking scary. Just scary motherfucking doll.
There's something extra scary about ventriloquist dummies. I don't know.
Then you make them ginger.
Yeah. Daywalker.
Yes.
But one comedian, I think he was on like Conan O'Brien or something. I can't even remember who it was, but I remember the story. He said he was in a dressing room with some guy's ventriloquist dummy, and he's just waiting to go on stage, or he had wrapped up, and all of a sudden the ventriloquist dummy out of nowhere just turns and looks at him, and it's like arms start to move and the eyes start to go. He's like, "What the fuck?" Like and living the doll nightmare. And then a fucking cat jumps out of the back. A cat had gotten in the back and started pressing all the gears.
That's horrifying.
But yeah, it's living the doll movie nightmare. But yeah, let's quickly mention, and I'll use air quotes for the camera if you're listening to this. I'm using giant air quotes. Actual evil doll stories in history. Ow, my fingers hurt from doing air
Actual
quotes.
evil doll stories in history?
Well, there's two that I can think of. There's Robert the doll.
Oh, you're talking about like quote unquote haunted dolls.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
There's Robert the doll, which is now he lives in a museum in Key West. I actually visited him. He's in his glass case, and they always like apparently people would see this weirdo doll that was given to this kid. Like people would drive by the house and they'd see like somebody running around upstairs.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Well, who was up there?" And they're like, "Oh, there's nobody up there. It's just the kid's doll." But they'd see like running by the stairwells and stuff. People would come and work on the house and they'd hear like a little kid laugh or somebody throw something across the room, and like people who like were plumbers would never come back.
Oh, geez.
They'd be like, "I'm not fucking going anywhere near that house." And the rumor has it that if you mock Robert, you become cursed. And they have
Robert doesn't listen to podcasts, does he?
No.
Okay, good.
Well, I'm not mocking him.
I'm just saying Robert is an amazing doll.
Yeah, Robert's great. Yeah.
Robert's great. Should run for president.
But there was like
I'd
in the
vote for him.
museum, there are digital letters that they've scanned and stuff of like, "Hey Robert, I'm really sorry that I came in and said blah 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 because I got like cancer and my mom died and my dog went blind. Please take this curse off of me." There are hundreds of letters like this, and of course, and we're gonna talk about the horrific movie that just went.
The Boy?
did whatever they wanted with it. And there's the Annabelle is a real doll.
Oh yes, Annabelle is a real
It's
doll.
what is it? Raggedy Annie.
It's
the actual
doll.
doll.
The actual doll is one of those Raggedy Annie style dolls. Yes.
Yeah, and obviously that doesn't bode well for movies. So you gotta adjust.
No,
that.
well, it doesn't. You can't. How can you light a Raggedy Annie doll?
Yeah,
You can't light that shit.
yeah. So
You know?
like the one thing that the Annabelle movie does get correct at the beginning of it is two nursing students bought this or they were gifted it.
Yeah.
And the doll would they would say they would come home and there'd be little letters written in crayon like "Help me, you free my soul," and then of course world famous grifters Lorraine and whatever her husband allegedly
Allegedly world famous grifters.
yeah and also world famous underage child groomers allegedly.
There's a
Clay-
lot of allegedlys. There,
allegedly,
by the way.
allegedly. Yeah, I'm not saying it's true. Allegedly, they like took the doll and they said, "Oh, it's possessed by a demon, and it needs to be freed from the doll so it can possess you, like Exorcist style." So they keep it behind. They're both dead. Well, no, she's still alive, but she keeps it behind this glass case, and it has to be.
Oh, I know Ed's dead.
Yeah,
Ed Warren
Lorraine's
is
still
dead.
around.
Lorraine's still around. I believe.
Yeah, and it's behind this glass case, and it has to be like blessed by a priest twice a month or something like that, or it's all showmanship. But
I mean, more power to the allegedly world famous grifters.
yeah,
But because that's you know what, make a living off of that.
yeah. So, Brian, what's your history with evil dolls? Like, what was like the first movie that kind of like brought you into that type
Puppet
of
Master.
subgenre? Puppet Master? Okay.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
Puppet Master. Puppet Master is, and we did a whole episode on the Puppet Master retrospective series, and it, for me, I love Puppet Master. I still do. Obviously, when we did that episode, the first one was kind of janky and hard to watch. But I love the artistry that goes into making an inanimate object scary, because there's 100 different ways you could do it, right? Like,
Yeah.
you could easily like rely on the atmosphere, which I think a lot of like the movies now that try to tackle killer dolls, like that's what they do.
Mhm.
They rely on atmosphere and that sort of thing, and like the doll just moves over here to one side of the room, and like when we pan the camera over, it's gone. Like, that's one way of doing it, but I really do love like the stop motion aspect of the Puppet Master movies that they, especially the early ones, really embraced. And when you watch the later ones, not so much, because that shit costs money. So
Yeah.
But the early ones, like 1, 2, 3, those are solid fun flicks to watch. That have really great stop motion animation on the puppets to give them that life. Plus the fact the puppets themselves are their own characters, right? You got Six Shooter, Blade, Leech Woman, the Tunneler,
It's
and
like
Pinhead Larry,
Yeah.
basically.
These guys wouldn't hang out if they weren't all evil dolls
Yeah,
together.
yeah. But also the thing with that Puppet Master, and this is the one thing that I think differentiates them, is they're not innately evil. It's
Right.
who is controlling them
Yeah.
is the evil person. So that's
the puppet master.
The puppet master. So like that's something that I think is unique with Puppet Master, and why it was my first one. Is that the dolls aren't the evil things. It's not like they're possessed by something. They're following orders.
Yeah, for me, obviously, I got to bow down to Sir Chuck. It was
Chucky
Child's Play.
was after that. Shortly after Puppet Master was Child's Play, and it was the Child's Play 2. See, I always did that. I don't know about you, but like I always found like the sequel first and then had to go back in later and watch the first one. So I watched Child's Play 2, then 1.
Well, Brian, as we mentioned on this show, like we both had we were latchkey kids that had the movie channels growing up.
Yeah.
And like the movie channels, it's a hell of a lot cheaper to buy the rights to the sequel.
Yes.
Than it is
100%.
the original. Ghostbusters 2, Child's Play 2,
100%.
Major League 2.
Plus, I just think because those movies were more recent when they were released, like Child's Play, I think came out.
We were like 4 or something, you know.
So like they were already the fresh ones that you'd want to put on cable, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the whole deal. So yeah, I mean, I love the whole Child's Play series except for the third one. I really don't like the third one at all. Like the one when they're in the military school.
Yeah, I do appreciate how Chucky made them shoot each other. That was the only really cool part of that.
Yeah, but no, Sir Chuck is awesome. John, talk about your experience with Sir Chuck.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was a kid, like when I saw like the box cover with Michael Myers for Halloween, I'm like, it doesn't really seem like that scary because I was maybe like 10 or 11 when I started to actually get into horror movies. Yeah. And then like even Freddy Krueger, like I think because Freddy was just such a rock and roll icon by that point, like he didn't like overly scare me, but I remember hesitating when I was like 11 renting Child's Play because I'm like, I don't know. He's this evil doll. I don't know. I hope I don't get scared.
Well, especially the first movie.
Yeah.
The first movie is way more scarier than the second one.
And, and I remember talking to the director and he really dodged this question that you don't really see the doll move until about 45 to 60 minutes in. And I said, was that because you were ratcheting the tension or was it because you didn't have like the money or time to do stop motion or something like that? Or is it a combination of both? And he didn't really answer that, but I do think it's a combination of both. Like have like somebody, a little person in a Chucky suit run by the hallway real quick as a blur, or do a POV shot of Chucky's point of view.
Yeah.
I know. And A, will make it more dramatic, but B, also save a lot of money and time.
Well, I think that with that one especially, and this is something that the later sequels never really did, is just the fact that Chucky, for the first part, you don't know if Andy's imagining all of this. Like you think that he's just that he could be the one who's killing people.
Yeah.
So, he's kind of you don't know if he's imagining this or not. But the later ones, you clearly are just like, it's fucking the doll.
Yeah.
Let's abandon that whole thing.
Yeah. So yeah, there are I think different types of films when we talk about this, and for me, the two big delineations are actual toy doll versus ventriloquist dummy. Because like just doing research.
That's fair enough.
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
You got like movies like Magic, Goosebumps, Dead of Night, all ventriloquist dummy based, and it's probably because it's a lot easier when the doll already is meant to blink and talk and ears move and stuff like that. Yeah, and then you have your actual like evil dolls that are possessed or haunted or what have you that are people's actual like toys, children's toys kind of thing. Other than that, I'm not really sure that there is much other I guess there's possession, and then there's also evil doll. Like the dolls themselves are just evil, like because Chucky is Charles Louis Ray, the Lakeshore Strangler. Yeah, he's possessed. Yeah, but
I don't know. I mean, I kind of could see that those two separate things. Just because, as you said, like they're innately creepy to begin with, right? But there are some weird ones that kind of are, you don't know what the hell they're doing with it.
Yeah.
So like, the first one on my list is one that I showed you earlier a couple days ago, and that is the movie Blood Dolls.
Yeah.
So Blood Dolls is a
batshit Looney Tunes. Yeah.
Batshit Looney Tunes movie. From the mind of Charles Band, which Charles Band, if you don't know, is the man who made Full Moon Pictures. So he's the man behind Puppet Master, and also the man behind one of the movies we're going to talk about, which is Dolls later. But Blood Dolls is a weird movie in which you've got these people who get turned into dolls. They're not necessarily possessed.
Yeah.
They're turned into dolls by a mad, insane person who's got a tiny head and a gigantic body. And the whole premise of the movie is he's going to send these dolls that he's created out of people that worked for him and send them out to kill his competitors who, screwed him over in business.
This isn't a capitalism commentary.
No, it's not. And this guy is clearly insane. He's got one guy who's dressed like a fucking clown named Mr. Mascaro. And he's also got an all-female punk rock band caged up in his basement. And he also has a little person who works for him who
just
kind
a
of like turns
Brian.
on. Yeah. It's a weird fucking movie, but I absolutely love Blood Dolls. It was a guilty pleasure of mine. It's one of those ones that I love the music because I love that style of music to begin with, the punk rock type stuff.
Yeah.
So like it's got a decent soundtrack, but then on top of that, like it's just a weird fucking movie. And even better, it has what I've only seen one other time. It has the quote unquote Clue, did this really happen ending. So for those of you who've never seen the movie Clue, the ending is like it kind of choose your own adventure type deal.
Yeah, because it originally played in different markets, and you would get one of 3 endings. Yeah. And then like the VHS I saw when I was a kid had all 3 endings in a row. But it was that kind of thing, right?
And the VHS, the DVD now has that too.
Okay, yeah.
So, but yeah, with Blood Dolls, there's like I think there's 2 or 3 different endings, and each one is like Mr. Mascaro comes out and he's like, yes, that could have been how the movie ended, but here's what's really happened, and it's just. I'm like, you had me.
Yeah.
I'm there. It's terrible. It's a terrible movie, but it's so good.
That runtime.
It's just so good.
Yeah. I put them in.
I was going to say, what do you got?
Slightly in chronological order more than anything. But I do want to mention Dead of Night, which precedes Talkie Tina.
Yeah.
And it's an anthology film that has the final story is about ventriloquist artist who is performing, and there's another ventriloquist performer in the audience, and the doll all of a sudden doesn't want to perform anymore, but wants to like negotiate with the other ventriloquist performer who's like much more talented. And the whole movie, that whole segment, I should say, revolves around: is this guy losing his mind, or is the doll actually doing things like, does the doll have a mind of its own? And what they do very well is they never actually answer that question.
Really?
Yeah, it's just kind of kept open, like
left ambiguous.
Yeah, because like there's a scene where like the doll like goes to the curtain and peers its hands and head through, and it's like, hey, other ventriloquist guy, meet me in my dressing room. We got things to talk about. And he comes back and he says, yeah, you told me to come back. And he's like, I didn't tell you to do anything. Like, you did the bit with the doll. He's like, I didn't do. What are you talking about? And
wow.
So it's just kind of left open like that. And I think that was kind of like one of the first like evil doll things brought to the forefront. And I just want to lump Magic in with that.
Magic's a weird movie.
Yeah. Which is a 1970s movie starring Anthony Hopkins, directed by Richard Attenborough.
Yes. Magic's fucking weird.
But it has like this almost the exact same plot.
Yes.
But I think they're a little more obvious about it that Anthony Hopkins is insane. It's not that the doll actually is alive.
You're telling me Anthony Hopkins can play an insane person?
What? Yeah.
What gave it away? Was it his crazy eyes?
Because it's another ventriloquist dummy thing where he has a chance to make it big. He was like a magic act. Nobody cared.
Yeah.
Brought in a ventriloquist dummy, and somehow that made him a huge success. I mean, I don't know. It worked for Jeff Dunham.
I was gonna say like, but Jeff Dunham combines comedy with his ventriloquist. I don't know anyone who's like, yes, what's your gag? Yeah. I stick my hand up this doll's ass and make it move.
But he doesn't want to like, before he can do a big special, he has to get some type of like physical and mental analysis, which he doesn't want to because he's Looney Tunes. Yeah. And so it's just that he keeps sabotaging his own career, and it's so cool because it has Mick from Rocky.
Yeah,
he's his manager
in there.
Yeah, and he's just like, do you think you could do 5 minutes without being the doll? And after like 2 minutes in, he just goes back to performing.
I remember that scene.
That's a good scene. His dummy, and it's Yeah, and obviously then everything breaks down for him and he ends up starting killing people and hiding bodies. And yeah, it's a bizarre movie.
It's weird. It's one of those weird ones that, like, I know when I first saw it, I was like, wait a minute. Is that Anthony Hopkins with the ventriloquist dummy? Like how, why did I miss this one? Because it was one that wasn't shown a whole lot for a long time. And then probably I'd say in the past maybe 10, 15 years, it started to be like in the rounds on like AMC Monster Vision and that sort of thing, where now you are seeing it. And it's getting kind of a bit of an audience, but it's weird. It's a weird film.
Yeah, because it's interesting for me because I saw Silence of the Lambs and I've followed like his career since.
Yeah.
But I haven't really watched much of his back catalog. So I just remember seeing the poster and I see like a young Anthony Hopkins with the worst haircut you've ever seen in your life.
Oh, come on. You didn't watch Free Jack?
I've not. No.
Oh, you haven't watched Free Jack? He has a very tiny role in that and he hates. He's talked about how he hated making that movie.
Okay.
With Emilia Estevez and Rene Russo, and there's like time travel involved.
Okay. Well, that sounds.
Yeah.
But if we talk about Child's Play, which we won't really go much into it because check the archives. We talked about the whole damn franchise.
We did do it the whole franchise at the time. We haven't done the newer ones.
Yeah. He Who Kills from Trilogy of Terror was kind of like the first Child's Play. Like this movie walked so Child's Play could run.
Okay.
And it stars like Margot Kidder, and it's like the I don't want to be politically incorrect, but it looks like some borderline Haitian voodoo type tiny doll.
Okay.
And the way that they did a lot of it, like it comes alive, and they did like a camera on a roller skate. They put like a 16 millimeter camera on a roller skate.
Works, right?
Yeah, to do the POV shot of it running after her. And do you think that there's a difference in terms of terror by how the doll looks?
Yes.
Like, I think that type of look is 10 times more terrifying than, say, Chucky, because Chucky's supposed to look like my buddy.
Yes.
So it's supposed to look friendly and then become evil. I think the more creepy the doll is, the more I'm unsettled.
It depends the way you want to cut it. Like, do you want the terror to be that this thing that is with your kid, that feels innocent, could in the blink of an eye,
Teddy
not
Ruxpin
be
eats your kid's
yeah,
throat.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like that's the terror there.
Yeah.
Is that your child's toy can kill you, or are you leaning more on the side of this thing is a tiny,
it's already
archetype of a human, but it is just unsettling to begin with. And then it becomes like, how do you lean into that? So like I tend to go with the idea of innocence corrupted. Like I like the Chucky side of it, but I can see where having something that is more disturbing to start with could work. But I like the idea of melding those two together.
And just, I kind of also want to mention a very, very ignored and unfortunately missed because it's so good. Horror anthology movies, Tales from the Hood.
Oh my God, I'm glad you brought that up.
And I think that they kind of borrowed from He Who Kills for the segment Doll's Revenge.
That is such a good segment from this movie. I mean, one, Tales from the Hood, and that's something we should definitely do an episode on that movie, is such a good example of horror before Scream. Because that movie came out in 95, so it was probably produced in 94.
Prior. Yeah.
And so it's 1 year before. And I really view that Tales from the Hood might be one of the last gasps of horror before it became meta.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's a movie that has, little vignettes of different stories, and some of them are horrifying. Like the one with the racist cop is really... one, it still rings true. Probably more so today. But, that one with the dolls is interesting just because it goes into so many different elements of American history, especially dealing with the South and the legacy of the Civil War and like the haunting of that. Honestly, that thing has not really been dealt with. We like to think that's in the past, but it's not. And it's like how that past comes back to haunt you. And it does it in the way that is very unique.
Because it's a guy, he's running for Senate or something, right? Yeah,
it's Corbin Burnson.
Yeah, he's like, my great-grandpappy was racist, my grandpappy was racist, my daddy was racist, I'm racist.
Yeah, and he's living in a former plantation.
Yeah.
And he's like, I support our Southern roots. It's like, you fucking racist asshole.
Yeah.
So like, it's great how the dolls are presented. Like you get one doll that's I think it's just put on this porch, right?
Yeah.
And like he brings the doll in and he kind of mocks it, and slowly like the doll starts fucking with them. And then you see that all the dolls are going to basically, fuck him
Like
over.
there's a big portrait of them. They keep disappearing from it.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool way of like bringing them into
Yes. It's
into the
such
movie.
a good sequence in that movie.
But just kind of like, moving on here to the early 80s, like when you talk about a movie like Poltergeist, you may have some people who say, what's the most memorable thing on that? Some people might say, oh, they're here, or the skeletons in the pool. But I know so many people who are like, the clown doll freaked me the fuck out.
The clown doll never fucking freaked me out.
My mom,
you know what did was the skeletons in the pool.
Yeah.
Because then you realize like those are real skeletons.
Yeah. Which I just want to say for the record.
Yeah, I know
is
what you're
that
gonna say.
real skeletons are used in movies all the time.
I get that, but it's like when you see them in a pool full of mud and water, and they're like mashing against each other, and it's so unsettling.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, I remember my mom said that this is like one of the few times this and E.T. were like the only movies she got out to see after my sister was born. Yeah. And she came back from Poltergeist and there was like a clown doll in her nursery, and she just took it and threw it away.
Did she throw it in the garage too?
I know. I think this one went right in the garbage and then gave a double power of middle fingers at it. So yeah, that's somewhere in a landfill right now. But yeah, so that one scene it really messed with people because I know Oliver. I think Oliver Robbins is his name.
Yes.
Who plays the little boy. He goes to like conventions with the doll because
that's ballsy.
Yeah, because people are like, they freak out when they see the doll next to him. That's a good way to get people over to your table. But I feel like Dolly Dearest and Dolls are.
I never saw Dolly Dearest, but Dolls.
It's the same movie as Dolls.
Dolls is special. Dolls is a special movie. So I watched Dolls last night in preparation for this episode.
Yeah.
And I told you this when we were going to get lunch earlier. Yeah. Dolls is a proto version of Puppet Master.
Yes, that's more than fair. Yeah.
Okay, so it's produced by Charles Band. It features the effects work of Brian Yuzna, of Society fame, and Reanimator fame, and it's directed by Stuart Gordon, who directed the Reanimator. And it was made by Empire Pictures, which was Full Moon before Full Moon was Full Moon. So when you're watching Dolls, it's like you're seeing the test ground for Puppet Master. Okay, and after you really think about it, like Puppet Master takes place in what? Bodega Bay, hotel.
Yeah.
And, this one takes place in a creepy fucking mansion. And what happens? Dolls pick people off one by one. Wow, in both movies.
It's such an absurd context too. It's like there's a bad storm, and people's cars break down, so they all go to this weird doll maker's house so they can ride out the storm. And
let's talk a little bit about the characters in this, because they're some of the best parts of this movie.
Well, we have two women who are like the misfits from Gem and the Holograms. Well, misfits, don't you know?
Well, they're doing their best Cockney accent, because sure as hell they're not really British.
Well, too, I think they're riding that whole like CBGBs, like Ramones and Sex Pistol kind of.
But it's way
popularity.
past the time though, because this movie came out in like 88?
Yeah.
It came out in 88, 87. So like they're already way past that. So now they're dipping into the Madonna route.
Yeah, it's a little of both, yeah.
But
they're old school and new school.
They're old school, new school, but it's so terrible. They're so bad. But they get it in the worst ways in this movie. Outside of the parents. The parents get it the best. Yeah. In my opinion.
The worst parents ever, as we mentioned.
Yeah, so like our focus is on this little girl who's she just loves dolls and she loves her teddy bear, but she's got literally the worst fucking parents ever. You've got a dad who literally doesn't want to be there, but he's like, I don't want to get hit with more child support payments, so I got to watch this kid that I don't fucking want.
Yeah,
and he's married.
Look, honey, next year we'll go to Fuck Island. I promise, when the kid's gone. Yeah.
And he's married to the worst human being ever. Like, she just is the worst irredeemable woman ever. And of course, it's a stepmom. So like, she's just if you just imagine quintessential late 80s douchebag female, and that's literally what she's doing, complete with the elbow pads, the turban shit. Why are you wearing that?
She comes in at an 11 on douche.
Yes.
Like right out the gate, no subtlety.
You know what she reminds me of? She reminds me of Karen Allen's like future version in Scrooged.
Oh yeah.
Remember when when he fast forwards to the future and she's like, "See, look at that. Those terrible," and like that's her. Yeah. So
we got the prototype of the evil doll maker who's like not evil,
played
but
by
like
Guy Rolfe, who ends up becoming Anton Andre Toulon, in Puppet Master 3. So he's had experience.
He's got a niche.
He's got a niche. Yeah.
And if you misbehave, these dolls who look like again classic like little girl
they're
dolls,
fucking scary.
Yeah.
Those are scary fucking dolls.
Yeah, they're gonna come for you and teach you a lesson.
Well, you know what I found most terrifying of those fucking dolls?
Yeah.
The fact that and again, this is Brian Yuzna's effects work on this. Yeah. The mouths, like you had creases in the mouths.
Yeah.
As they smiled, and I'm just like, oh my god, that is creepy.
That's attention to detail.
That is
surprising
attention to detail.
Yeah. They didn't take too much attention on the script, but they did that.
Charles Band, that's all I gotta say. Okay, I love the man's movies, I really do. But yeah, the depth layer there isn't there. But yeah, and we didn't even mention Ralph. The man-child man.
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
man who loves dolls.
Yeah. Is he really a man-child just because he remembers enjoying things as a child? How dare you?
Young at heart.
Yeah.
No, but he just I love dolls. They're great. I used to leave imaginary cookies for them.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and then you got a bunch of ants. Yeah. But one thing I do want to mention that's kind of similar to this movie is Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5.
I never saw that one.
And for all of you out there who want to get into Christmas horror, let Dr. John give you some medical advice here. See the first Silent Night, Deadly Night because it's a
classic.
It's a classic, and it's great 80s slasher cheese. See the second one if for nothing else other than to
Garbage Day,
and also to really admire how they scammed an audience by showing 80% of the movie is the previous movie. But yeah, go see for Eric Freeman's performance. You can easily skip 3 and 4. They're fucking awful. But go see Part 5 because it is batshit crazy. There's Mickey Rooney.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, because Mickey Rooney originally used to shit on these movies, but he was so out of money that they completely trolled him. And they went, "Yeah, you don't like these movies, but you need money. We're gonna cast you in this." He went, "Fuck, I have no choice." He plays this toy store owner, and I think his name is Petto.
Oh my god, really?
And he makes
That's so bad.
He makes a Pinocchio creature out of a human. And he's at the end of the movie, and he's just talking to our heroes, and he's like, "I want to be a real boy." And I'm like, okay, this is fucking awesome. So yeah, skip 3 and 4, but definitely check out 5. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise. It's one of those things that they got a script, and they went, throw Silent Night, Deadly Night on it. Because it's not an evil Santa. There's nothing like that. It's
because it's toys, Christmas and toys. There you go.
There you go. We talked about Puppet Master. Brian, do you have any suggestions on which ones to watch, which ones to skip?
I mean, for me, I think you have to watch the first one because it's the first one.
Yeah.
And
killing off magicians.
And
hypnotists. Psychics.
Everyone's a psychic, yeah. You got to watch that one just because it's the first one. The second one's actually pretty decent. For me, the third one's the best. I love the third one when they go to World War II and you see, Andre Toulon's kind of backstory because you don't really ever get that, especially the second one. The second one, he's kind of an evil monster, zombie, that's doing kind of the Invisible Man thing where he's all wrapped up. So I'd say 1, 2, and 3. After that, they start to get weird. Really weird, where you're talking about this demon totem people, and it's just a weird series of movies. There's 2 movies after that, and then it starts to get really bizarre and just not good. I haven't seen any of the new ones. I kind of stopped.
They are still cranking them out.
They are. Charles Band has milked that one dry. I mean, which hey, more power to him. It's his stuff.
Yeah.
I'd rather have him milk them dry than somebody else try to milk them dry.
But there's no milk left in that titty. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. But I don't know. I think there was like The Littlest Reich was one that's a newer one. And I don't know. I'd say 1, 2, and 3 are probably your best bets.
Okay.
After that, they get
just
weird.
do the trilogy and pretend it's over after that.
Yeah.
I don't really know if we have anything really left to say about Child's Play that you can check out in the archives.
One thing I will say about Child's Play is, and we talked about this earlier when we were talking to Alyssa, is that the series, really good shit. Like, I don't know, John, have you seen any of the series yet?
I have not.
Okay.
See, I was shaking my head and agreeing because I thought at first you meant the series of films.
No,
I
was
forgot
talking the
there's a TV
series,
show.
the TV series.
Yeah.
So the TV series.
How do they stretch that out like that?
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what it is? What
Yeah.
they did was they took off of Cult of Chucky.
Okay.
You know, which was the last movie before the reboot. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And they expanded that. So that was kind of what they ended up doing. And I wasn't sure when I watched the series initially if it was going to work, but it 100% does. And I really think that is because Don Mancini's involvement.
Yeah.
You know, so if you've got his involvement in it, it's his characters, he's building it off. And he's also bringing in legacy people. Like you see, you know, you see Kyle show up from the second one.
Yeah.
You see the little kid, blanking on the name right now. He shows up. He's grown up.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm
so you've
blanking
seen
too.
all of these characters. Andy, that's it.
Oh, yeah, I was trying to think of the
Grown-up
actor's name.
Andy.
Andy.
Yeah,
I thought
Andy
we'd be
shows
friends
up.
to the end.
No,
Yeah.
but Andy shows up,
Yeah.
and it's not Justin Chatwin. It's actually like really the actor from the first two movies,
Which is cool when they do that.
So like he comes in, and he's not just like a cameo. He's there as a major character in the series.
Yeah.
So you've got these legacy. You have Jennifer Tilly, who's a main character in the series. So it's expanding what the films left off. You know, because you go with the Cult of Chucky, if you go with Seed of Chucky, there were a lot of things that were like ended that you're just like, well, what do you do next? And they successfully did that. And they also lead in to the ridiculous nature of the movies.
Yeah.
I think that's the source of it, is that when you lean in to how ridiculous the concept of a Cabbage Patch style doll coming alive and killing people and doing it with like, you know, witty, ridiculous, you know, quips.
Yeah.
Voiced by Brad Dourif. Then that's all you need, you know. But it actually is pretty good.
Yeah. I will say this in terms of the movie franchise: if you do want to see a surprisingly progressive movie about non-binary, Seed of Chucky.
I mean, yeah. No, you're right, and that's a movie that came out at a time when no one was really talking about that stuff.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you this: if the Lakeshore Strangler can accept his child that doesn't gender identify, you can too.
That's right.
for anybody
I almost
listening out
think
there,
you need
that's
to have
close-minded.
the more you know that pops up
Yeah.
above your head right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got to talk about it, Brian.
Uh-oh.
We got to talk about Annabelle.
We're talking about Annabelle.
Yeah. I just was told I was number one from somebody.
Is that what she was doing?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But yeah, oh my God. I ignore this movie. Like, there are a lot of movies that you and I watch because we have a podcast. So
I think I've cursory watched this one. I think that's about it.
But what I remember when this came out, like, I didn't have a podcast at the time, and I saw the trailer and went, that looks like shit. And I did the jerk off motion and never saw it. But in preparation for this, I finally watched it. And oh dear God, I don't know what's worse, how slow this movie is, because it's trying to be like smart horror.
Yeah.
When it's so absurdly stupid. So it's just so slow and just never goes anywhere. Or how much that they just took the quote unquote Annabelle story and just made whatever the hell they wanted.
I mean, I blame the movies that preceded this.
Yeah.
You know, the what the fuck is it? Haunting in Connecticut or whatever the fuck called.
Oh yeah, I initially didn't
Conjuring
see.
universe.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the Conjurings at first.
I blame those because those kind of put in the head of people. You know, it's kind of like you're building that MCU with those movies because clearly, like, oh well,
Conjuring, Nun,
yes,
Annabelle. Yeah.
So like, the Annabelle series was like the first stab at how can we milk this a little bit further?
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, I really don't care for it. I think it's a cash grab. But I do want to mention one thing is that another movie that's somewhat contemporary came out a couple years prior, managed to do what Annabelle tries to do, but really well, and that's Dead Silence.
You know what? When I was doing my research, I saw that on everybody's list, but I have not seen it.
You've never seen Dead Silence?
No.
So I saw Dead Silence years ago, and just because it's marketed as like, oh, but this is from the same person who made Saw. And when you think about that, you're like, well, I liked Saw, but the sequel's not
maybe
so
the
much.
First one.
That's about it.
The needle pit in the second one, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. That's it. Like that one in. That's it. But Dead Silence, that is, if you're looking for like an overall creepy fucking movie, that one is kind of it, because one, it gives you the doll, and like by itself the doll is it's creepy and it's a ventriloquist dummy, but you couple that with the story of the old woman who's the ventriloquist, like she actually is the ventriloquist, and then you couple that with like the fact that there's a scene where literally she has her mouth cut into the form of a ventriloquist dummy, and her eyes are like black and glossy and just pale white skin. That is a fear-inducing movie if I've ever seen one. That's why it's on the top list. But that's a contemporary film, tries to tackle dolls, but does it in a better way than, say, Annabelle does. Where I think Annabelle is just like, how can we take that 5 seconds we saw in The Conjuring and turn it into a movie?
Well, it looked like, from the pictures I saw online, it looked like if Slappy and Dracula had a love child.
Oh yeah, no, it's actually a really well done movie that I think a lot of people end up appreciating when they're like, I really want to watch something that's kind of disturbing. But it also does it in a way that is still slick. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's a transition in that film where you see a car that is driving from looking at a map, like it does the map kind of transition. And I'm like, I love that sort of thing.
Like Indiana Jones style?
No, well, it's like it starts off like on a map, and then a camera it like pushes in, and as it pushes in, the starts to move.
Oh, like Google Earth.
And it starts to turn into the car, and then we're back into like
that's cool.
A shot that's on the car. So like that sort of artful take on it is just one element of an overall scary fucking movie about dolls.
Let me just go back real quick to Annabelle. When you talk about delightful racist tropes in movies that you thought
racist tropes,
I say that when on not even a hint of irony, a gallon of irony, that you thought didn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
in Annabelle, for those who haven't seen it, and for those that maybe have forgotten it, there is the black best friend,
of course,
who lost her daughter, but she's also, I guess because she's black, an expert on evil possession and demons and stuff.
Oh, well, of course, right? Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, the doll can apparently possess the child, the baby of the young white couple. But it says, tells basically the mother through writing on the walls, through magic, if you kill yourself, I won't possess your child. And they realize that, anybody could kill themselves, and they look, and they're like, where's our black friend? And she's standing in the window with the Annabelle doll and goes, maybe this is how it was always supposed to be, and I can go home to my child. And she does the sacrificing black person stereotype.
Oh my God.
That I thought died out in the 80s or 90s. And I'm like, really? Really?
I mean,
Annabelle.
You know what's funny? It's like we were here at Erie, and we went to a panel about the industry, and the one thing that all the panelists were saying was like, make sure you have a really good script that you read around the room with people, and that you really are like, you've nailed that fucker down. And I just have a feeling like that script probably not so much, because someone should have been like, hey, this really is like not cool. Like, this is not cool. Does not flow well. It does play into a stereotype that really should have died out a long time ago.
Well, I would say this is, don't make the person a person of color. And if somebody say, well, hey, John, what are you trying to take roles away from people of color? I got a solution for you. Make the white couple black, and then now you got two people of color.
There you go.
There you go. Just replace it that way. But Brian, did you see The Boy?
That's the one about Robert the doll.
Basically,
I believe it is, right?
Oh no, The Boy is the one with Lauren Cohen from Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And she has to watch this house, and while doing that, there's like a doll there that's supposed to be a replacement for their son.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, don't touch the doll, don't hurt the doll, but make sure you like take care of the doll. And in the movie, it's one of those things that like something weird happens and the doll has moved, and it's like, but the doll was by itself, but people heard walking and all that. It's one of those like, the twist is the son never died and he was living in the walls. Whoa. And then that brought a lot of those type of movies on where grandma wasn't like in a wheelchair at all during the movie. She's been fine the whole time. Whoa. But yeah, so that was kind of the end of what I would call that type of one. I think that what's interesting now that we're seeing, because I want to lump these two together, is the Child's Play remake, the Mark Hamill one.
I hate that movie.
And Megan is that
Megan I do like.
Yeah. Is that now now what we're seeing is like artificial intelligence dolls. That seems to be the new trend of evil doll movies.
It depends what route you're going. I mean, it really does, because I think I said this when I reviewed Megan for the podcast, and I did kind of a bonus type deal. I said that where I think the Chucky reboot failed and where the Megan film succeeded was that it was more than just, here's about a creepy fucking doll.
Yeah.
Right? Like, Megan was ultimately about the role of technology in parenting our children. And is that technology replacing the parent? What if that technology thinks it can do a better job than you? And what does that look like? And how does that, and then how do you wrap that up? And so with Megan, it's the doll is the technology. And it speaks to a bigger thing. Whereas I really think the Child's Play remake is, well, how can we make money off of the Child's Play brand by not having Brad Dourif and, giving it more money?
Well, as I had mentioned on an interview we had done, which may or may not be out yet, because forgive us, everybody, we're bulk recording, so I don't know when things are going to drop.
I don't know when things are going to drop either.
But I had mentioned how I think that this is probably a movie about an evil doll that's actually just supposed to be like pure white and slick looking.
Yeah.
And when it talks, like its face lights up blue or something like that. And they went, well, we don't know if this movie's going to be successful, but we own Chucky. We own Child's Play. So let's just make this a Child's Play reboot. We'll use the same script, but we'll just, instead of like R206, we'll scratch that out and put Chucky.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
And I think that's kind of where that kind of came from. But you know what I think that, what Chucky reminds me of? Something that did it better was South Park Funny Bot.
Funny Bot.
That it's like this comedy is done.
Oh shit.
So this robot's made, I am Funny Bot. Yeah.
Yes.
And he realizes the greatest joke in the world would be to just kill everyone. That's what Funny Bot thinks would be hilarious. And I'm like, this movie is just Funny Bot.
Yeah.
Because Chucky's trying to do the right thing, but he just, because of his programming, he does everything wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's what we're going to start seeing moving forward is variations on Megan, or Child's Play.
I think you're going to see more of the variations on Megan, and I think that's great, because I think there's a lot of stories you can tell by using the doll kind of as the menacing thing. I think that's that again. I think that's why Megan was so successful. Is that it wasn't just like, this doll's possessed. This doll thinks they're doing the right thing. They don't think they're the villain here. And we've said this a couple times, is that the best movies that people really resonate with are the ones where the villain thinks they're the hero.
Yeah,
Megan throughout the entire movie thinks that she is doing the right thing, that she is trying to protect her, the little girl, and protect it from an aunt who doesn't know what the fuck she's doing and doesn't want to, and kind of is a workaholic and has usurped parenting to the doll. So like, those kind of stories are ripe for using the trope of the killer doll.
I would say, keep mustache twirling, villains that are happy that they're villains and know they're doing wrong. Say that for Rod Julia in Street Fighter.
Yes.
Because nobody will ever do it better.
No one ever can do it better than Raul Julian.
Of course. But yeah, I think we're gonna see things like Puppet Master, but they're cybernetic. We're gonna see a lot of old movies now, but with the AI fear attached.
I mean, I think it's one of those things that's because of how relevant it is.
Yeah.
Right.
We may even see like ventriloquist dummy movies, but it's like, what's so great about these new ventriloquist dummies is I don't even have to put my hand inside of it, because it's all computer chips now. And then the ventriloquist dummy will be like, I'm sentient now. So I think that's where we're going. So I would be very interested before we wrap this up is, hey, people, hit up our Discord. I want to know what you think about evil dolls. I want to know what your favorite is. What really bothers you? Like, what type of evil doll?
And did you also have a killer doll? Not a killer doll, but a doll when you were a kid that freaked the fuck out of you and your parents threw it into a garage?
Yeah.
I want to know.
Yeah.
But, John, good talk.
Yes.
Where can they find you at on the internet?
Let's see. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and on the YouTube at J Does Video Nasties. Don't know why I said it in this note.
Cool. You can find me at Brian Content on Twitter. I am also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Psycho Show, and of course, as John had mentioned, come over to our Discord channel. Link for it's in the description of this episode. You can also come hang out with us on the TikToks. We have some videos there. Not a whole lot, but we do have some that we try to put out when we put out these episodes for our TikTok family. And that is, you can find us there at Cinema Psycho Show. Also, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, or you can go over to cinemapsychoshow.com/follow, and we will see you next time.
I got nothing.
There you go.